You know, you sometimes come across a country that's making really interesting moves on the economic front. And Benin, um, it feels like one of those places right now.
Hmm.
We've got some compelling information suggesting a significant upward trajectory, with a reported GDP growth of 7.5% in 2024. That's a figure that definitely grabs your attention, makes you wonder what's driving it.
It certainly does. And what's particularly noteworthy as we look into this is the breadth of their approach. It's not
Hmm.
relying on just one thing.
Right.
Our aim in this deep dive is to really get under the hood,
Yeah.
understand the main investment opportunities and the government strategies that are, well, fueling this shift.
Exactly, because I think for some, the initial image of countries in this region might still be tied to just, raw material
Yeah,
exports.
that perception lingers.
But what's coming through in this material is a very deliberate effort by Benin to move beyond that, to build more value within its borders through processing and to create a more diverse economic base.
Okay, so let's start digging into these key investment areas. Agriculture and agribusiness seem to be right at the forefront.
They are, and for good reason, given Benin's established strengths. I mean, their position as a leading cotton producer in Africa and a major player in global cashew exports.
Hmm.
That's not just about growing stuff.
No, it's about leveraging those resources further down the line.
Precisely.
Right, and that's where the Glow-Jigby Industrial Zone, or GDIZ, appears to be a really pivotal development. It's this central zone specifically set up to process these raw agricultural goods.
Hmm.
We're talking about transforming cotton into textiles, cashews into oils, and packaged foods, all for export. That's a significant leap, isn't it, in terms of economic value creation?
Absolutely. A huge leap. And the potential extends beyond just those two commodities, too. The data on pineapple production is also quite striking. Over 400,000 tons produced annually.
Well, that immediately suggests opportunities for processing into things like juice, jam, dried fruit, you name it. It's about maximizing the potential of what they already grow well.
And it sounds like they're also looking to expand their agricultural portfolio with increased soybean cultivation. The fact that there's mention of support for climate resilient farming initiatives in that context, that's a really interesting detail, suggests an eye towards sustainability future proofing.
Good point. It shows they're thinking long term.
Okay, now let's pivot a bit. Another area that seems to be gaining traction, renewable energy.
Ah, yes. This is certainly a sector with huge global momentum, and Benin appears to be in a pretty favorable position to capitalize on it.
All that sunshine, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Over 300 days of sunshine per year. Solar energy is just. It's a natural resource for them. The information highlights potential for private investors in projects focused on rural electrification and developing solar farms.
Especially those off-grid solutions.
Particularly those, yes. They can serve communities not connected to the main power grid. What are your thoughts on the scalability of those off-grid solutions? Could they really make a dent?
That's a really good point. I think those decentralized solutions could have a significant impact, actually, reaching underserved populations, fostering local economic activity, maybe even more effectively than large grid expansions in some areas.
Interesting perspective.
Now, shifting focus again, Benin also seems to recognize the potential of its cultural and natural assets in tourism and hospitality.
Yes, the royal palaces of Abomey are specifically mentioned, and Pinjari National Park sounds like a significant natural attraction.
What's interesting here is that this sector seems, well, relatively underdeveloped right now,
Yeah, contributing around 2.5% of GDP, the source says.
which suggests considerable room for expansion, doesn't it?
Definitely. And to unlock that potential, the material points to specific areas needing investment. Things like eco-lodges that fit the environment.
Sustainable tourism, basically. Right. And developing tour agencies to create better visitor experiences and generally improving the infrastructure to support tourism. It feels like an area where thoughtful investment could yield significant returns.
It could be a real growth engine if managed well.
Let's move on to manufacturing, which seems very connected to those industrial zones we talked about earlier.
Precisely. The GDIZ isn't an isolated case. The strategic focus on establishing special economic zones, SEZs, is a clear government strategy to attract manufacturing businesses.
And they're offering the usual carrots, it seems.
They are. The incentives they're offering, tax holidays, reduced tariffs, streamlined customs procedures, these are all standard tools used to make a location more attractive for companies looking to set up or expand. How do these incentives typically compare, though, to what other nations in the region might offer?
That's a key question, isn't it? While the specifics would need a deeper dive, generally, these types of incentives can be quite competitive as countries vie for foreign direct investment. But I think the long-term stability and predictability of these incentives are often just as important as the initial benefits themselves.
True. Consistency matters.
And the focus areas for manufacturing in Benin seem logical, aligning with their existing strengths, textiles from cotton, obviously, the need for construction materials as infrastructure develops, and more agro-processing. Makes sense.
It ties back nicely to the agriculture piece.
Now, when we look at Benin's geographical position, that seems to offer some inherent advantages for logistics and trade, too.
Undeniably. The Port of Cotonou's role as a key regional trade hub cannot be overstated. The fact that they're putting $160 million into expanding it, that's a clear sign they're serious about increasing capacity.
And its location.
Right on that crucial Abidjan-Lagos corridor. It strategically positions the country for warehousing, for facilitating cross-border trade. It's a geographical advantage they're actively working to enhance.
So we've looked at the sectors with potential, but what are the key drivers behind all this activity? The government seems to be taking a very proactive role with some pretty significant initiatives.
Absolutely. The Benin Reveille program is highlighted as the sort of overarching framework for many of these efforts.
And GDIZ is the star player.
It's the flagship project, yes.
Yeah.
The core aims are clear: boost local processing, create much-needed jobs, and reduce that historical reliance on just exporting raw stuff.
And it's working.
Well, the fact that over 50 industries are already operational within the GDIZ, supported by those tax incentives, that suggests it is gaining real traction. What are some of the challenges you might see, though, in scaling up these industrial zones effectively?
Good question. I suppose one potential challenge could be ensuring a consistent supply of quality raw materials to meet the demands of all these new industries.
Right, the supply chain.
And also developing the necessary skilled workforce to operate them. Training is key. And it's not just about physical infrastructure either. The push for digital transformation also seems to be a key part of the government's strategy.
It is. The development of a digital platform for administrative processes. That's a significant step. Improves transparency, efficiency.
Cuts down on red tape, hopefully.
Exactly. And this kind of digital infrastructure is increasingly vital for attracting not just traditional businesses, but also the growing tech, startup, and fintech sectors. It creates a more streamlined and predictable business environment overall.
Something that really stood out to me was the mention of social development bonds. That feels like a pretty forward-thinking approach for a developing economy.
It is quite innovative, yeah. Benin issuing the first STG bond in West Africa, a substantial $500 million bond, sends a powerful message about their priorities.
And where does the money go?
Specifically allocated to climate adaptation and social projects.
And the fact that this aligns with reforms backed by the IMF suggests a coordinated and, well, responsible approach to financing their development goals. How might these SDG bonds influence investor perception of Benin, do you think?
Oh, I'd imagine it signals a serious commitment to sustainable and inclusive growth, which could be particularly attractive to investors who are increasingly focused on ESG factors, environmental, social, and governance.
That's a growing trend, for sure.
And we can't overlook the more traditional big infrastructure projects that are underway either.
Indeed. That $7 billion Niger-Benin oil pipeline, that's a massive undertaking with potentially huge economic implications.
Right, and the ongoing development of road networks. Connecting rural farms with urban markets, that's absolutely crucial for trade and just integrating the economy within the country.
Basic, but essential.
So how do all these pieces fit together? How can foreign investment really, amplify Benin's economic progress? Well, the diversification of their export base is a primary benefit. By shifting towards value-added products like the examples we saw, cashew wine, cotton textiles, Benin can lessen its exposure to those often unpredictable global prices for raw commodities.
Making the economy more stable, more resilient.
Exactly.
And the potential for job creation seems significant, especially considering the reported high rate of youth underemployment. I think the source said 72%.
A staggering figure. Projects like the SEZs and the agribusiness initiatives within the GDIZ are directly tackling this issue. These initiatives aren't just about economic growth on paper. They represent real, tangible opportunities for young people to find meaningful work.
And there's the tech transfer aspect, too.
Precisely. When foreign investors engage, particularly in sectors like renewable energy and advanced manufacturing, they often bring new technologies and specialized knowledge. This facilitates technology transfer, helps upskill the local workforce, leading to greater productivity down the road.
Benin's membership in regional economic blocs like ECOWAS and Tumu also seems like a major draw for investors looking at the bigger picture in West Africa.
Absolutely. Being part of these blocs provides access to a combined market of approximately 400 million consumers.
Yeah,
For investors, that represents a substantial potential customer base.
that's huge.
And with the Port of Cotonou handling such a significant volume of regional trade, 90%, the info suggests Benin offers a key logistical advantage for companies aiming to serve this wider market.
Okay, now, it's important to have a balanced view. We should touch on the challenges too. What are some of the key considerations potential investors should keep in mind?
The information does point to some important areas, yes. Infrastructure limitations, particularly the reliability of electricity supply and the quality of roads in more rural areas.
Yeah.
Those remain challenges.
Although they are working on it, you said.
Yes, it's encouraging to note the ongoing projects aimed at addressing these gaps. Then there's the significant informal economy, with a large percentage of the workforce outside the formal sector. That presents complexities, for labor practices, tax collection.
Yeah, formalizing the economy is a long-term challenge for many countries.
It is. And the issue of bureaucratic processes, sometimes that can still be a hurdle in emerging economies. So that ongoing commitment to good governance and streamlining regulations will be crucial for building sustained investor confidence.
Makes sense. You need that predictability.
Exactly. While Benin has made notable progress, continuous efforts to improve efficiency and reduce bureaucratic hurdles are vital for fostering a stable and attractive business environment for the long term.
Okay. So when we step back and look at the bigger picture, what makes Benin a compelling story for those considering investment in West Africa? What's the elevator pitch, maybe?
Well, I think Benin offers a really interesting combination of factors. A degree of political stability in what can be a complex region.
That's a big plus.
A strategic geographical position for trade, definitely. And a proactive government implementing concrete economic reforms aimed at diversification and growth. These elements together position it as a potentially attractive gateway to those broader West African markets.
And the key opportunities appear to be concentrated in those sectors we've discussed.
Yeah.
Adding value to their strong agricultural base, tapping into renewable energy, building up manufacturing, all with the goal of hitting that ambitious growth target while also addressing social and economic inequalities.
Precisely. And the government's commitment, demonstrated through things like GDIZ and those SDG bonds, signals a focus on sustainable and inclusive development. That's increasingly important for investors who are looking for both financial returns and positive, broader impact.
This has been a really informative deep dive into Benin's economic landscape. It certainly seems like a country with a clear vision and concrete steps being taken to achieve it.
Definitely one to watch.
So, for you, our listener, considering Benin's strategic advantages, its ongoing development initiatives, and yes, the challenges that remain, it prompts the question: what potentially high-growth sectors might currently be flying under the radar, offering unexpected opportunities for future investment and innovation?
That's a good thought provoker.
We encourage you to delve deeper into resources like the GDIZ portal, maybe reports from institutions like the World Bank and IMF for a more detailed picture. It's definitely a development story worth following.